We have some footage of Mar-a-Lago in West Palm Beach, Florida right now. In the next few moments, Trump is scheduled to meet with many of the people you see on your screen. I believe these are Republican governors from across the country who are getting ready to be on the same page and shore up a plan for the Trump agenda and the Trump presidency. And there on your screens now, you see President-elect Trump walking into, his stately decorated room there at Mar-a-Lago, pointing to the press enthusiastically and now shaking hands now with those Republicans as he prepares to take office and push forward his Republican agenda. And so we stand by to see if Trump will make any remarks at the beginning of this dinner, as it has been positioned for the press, on the Supreme Court decision denying Trump's request for a delay in the sentencing in his hush money criminal case here in New York, which is scheduled to take place at 10 a.m. on Friday. We're listening to our legal contributor, Jessica Levinson, joining us from California on what this really means. We're also diving into the Supreme Court's language on what is a 5-4 decision to not intervene and to allow the sentencing to move forward. And we certainly do want to hear from the president-elect when he does make remarks. You see him there now making a full lap around the room on this news. What he was seeking previous to this decision was an emergency reprieve from the highest court on the sentencing, which is expected to take place Friday morning. And the New York judge, Juan Merchan, who had, if we think back to the summer of 2024, he had harsh words for the then former president when it came to court outbursts and comments made publicly about the jury and the press. You'll remember there was a gag order in this case as well. Let's see if we can listen to what the president-elect is saying.
And these are people that aren't timid, they're not afraid of the press. If you'd like to ask a couple of questions, you may. We had a very beautiful day celebrating a very nice man, a good man, great humanitarian, Jimmy Carter, funeral. And thought it was a beautiful service and it went very well. And we had some very good victories today, as you probably heard. Go ahead. Any questions, Peter?
Yes, President Trump, just a few minutes ago, the Supreme Court ruled that they are not going to slow down the sentencing. It's on for tomorrow. Now what?
Well, they called for an appeal, and as you know, they acknowledged what the judge said about no penalty, and there's no penalty. But we're going to appeal anyway, just psychologically, because frankly, it's a disgrace. It's a judge that shouldn't have been on the case. He's a highly conflicted judge. And they called for an appeal. So I read it, and I thought it was a fair decision, actually. So I'll do my little thing tomorrow. They can have fun with their political opponent. As you know, I'm under a gag order from a judge. This is the first. This was an attack of a political opponent. And if you take a look at it, I'm not supposed to be talking about it, so I won't. I'm the first president and probably one of the first candidates in history that's under attack with a gag order, where I'm not allowed to speak about something. And they ought to find out what that's all about. And this is a long way from finished. And I respect the court's opinion. I think it was actually a very good opinion for us because you saw what they said. But they invited the appeal, and the appeal is on the bigger issue. So we'll see how it all works out. I think it's going to work out well. We beat Jack Smith. He's back, I hope, at The Hague, but I don't think he should be there either. He puts people in very bad positions, like giving people death penalties. I will tell you, Jack, he is a disgrace. We won all of those cases. We won most of the other cases, or they're limping along. We've had a lot of lawfare. These are all people that understand what's going on here very badly. This was an attack on the Republican Party. This was an attack on the Republican candidate who just won an election by record numbers, the highest number of Republican votes by far ever gotten. And we won all swing states, 7 swing states. We won the popular vote by millions of people. And that was the real vote. And I said it a long time ago, the real vote is that. And they tried to stop that from happening. They tried to stop this election from happening, or to bloody somebody up so badly they couldn't win. And the people got it. And again, we won by the largest number. Nobody's ever seen anything like that. It was conclusive. It was a massive, they say, the most consequential election in 129 years. And these people, the people know everything that you're asking. They've been studying this for 2 years as it went along, and hopefully it'll never happen again, an attack on a political opponent. So Peter will be appealing the decision. They're asking for an appeal, and that's on the fact, on what's going to happen, much more importantly than tomorrow.
Off the top, you mentioned the Carter funeral today. What were you talking to Barack Obama about?
It did look very friendly, I must say.
I thought you guys hated each other.
I didn't realize it, how friendly it looked. I saw it on your wonderful network just a little while ago before I came in, and I said, boy, they look like two people that like each other. And we probably do. We have little different philosophies, right? But we probably do. I don't know, we just got along. But I got along with just about everybody on that. We met backstage, as you know, before we went on. And I thought it was a beautiful service, but we all got along very well, which is good.
In California, what specifically do you think Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass could have done differently to prepare for this $50 billion fire?
And, you know, we have great governors in this room, and if you look at the way their states, I think I can say without exception, anybody doing poorly in here? I don't think so. I mean, without exception, we have great governors here that have done a great job with their states. And I don't think, and you'll probably, if there's a weak link, you're going to find it, and you're going to be asking the next question of that person. Gavin Newsom had an opportunity to have millions of gallons a week, a day, millions and millions of gallons come down from the north. And I was able to get him federal approval from that, from the Department of Commerce of all departments. I didn't realize it would go through Commerce. I would have thought environmental, but it goes through Commerce. I got all of the approvals, and he said, I don't want to sign it. I don't want the water. We don't need the water. I said, you need the water. Your reservoirs are empty, the whole place. You need the water. That was 5 years ago. And I had it all done. The work was all done. We sent it to him. He refused to sign it. And if you notice yesterday, the hydrants were empty. They didn't have any water, many of them. They said 20%, but now I just heard 50%, and now none of them have water, and that fire is still raging. When he turned that down, I was going to give him unlimited water. It would come down, it really comes down from the north, way up north, including parts of Canada. It's so much water that they wouldn't know what to do with. Just the opposite would have happened. And that's the reason that this happened. He wouldn't do what we wanted. And we're going to force that upon him now. But it's very late, because I think it's one of the great catastrophes in the history of our nation. This is not just in Los Angeles. I've never seen anything like that, devastation. And we're talking about homes that cost $200, $300, $400 million. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. People that, and very influential people worldwide. I don't know that they ever go back either, because you know, they weren't happy with California. They weren't happy with Gavin Newsom. They weren't happy with their whole lifestyle there, with the crime being out of control, all the other problems. They were not happy. And it's going to be very interesting to see whether or not they're going to build, or whether somebody else is going to build and build a much lesser home. These were the most expensive homes outside of Palm Beach County. I see a list outside of Palm Beach. These were the most expensive homes anywhere in the world. And I think a lot of them are just not going to go back and build it. Plus, they don't want to be part of a construction site. They don't want to, they're building a home, another one's building, they're building in front of them, behind them, alongside of them. So I think it's a tragedy. I think it's an incredible tragedy. It's also a tragedy for a tax base. And the governors know exactly what I'm talking, and I'd like to hear anybody talk about that. But if you're the governor of a state and you lost thousands of very rich people that were paying a lot of taxes and weren't happy about it, and weren't happy about what's happened to California, which has all the advantages of greatness, but they've had horrible politicians. I think that Gavin is largely incompetent, and I think the mayor is largely incompetent, and probably both of them are just stone cold incompetent. What they've done is terrible. Would anybody have a comment on that? Because when you talk about losing the tax base, you're losing a lot of, you're going to lose a lot of those people permanently. Those people pay billions of dollars in taxes. Governor, what about you?
We got some great property in Louisiana.
Yeah. Well, they'll be moving to a lot of your states. They'll be moving to Florida, I can tell you. I know that. But they're going to be moving to, you're going to pick up a lot, Texas. So it's a rough situation. I've never seen, I think it's one of the great catastrophes in the history of our country. Not even believable.
President Biden's term almost over. Before he goes, there's talk that he might trade a Gitmo al-Qaeda detainee, Mohammed Rahim, for 3 American hostages held by the Taliban. Should he do that?
Well, I haven't looked at it. I will be looking at it. They're showing me tomorrow morning. They're showing me that there's a trade on. That trades, I have not been in favor of the trades they've made, but I'll be taking a look tomorrow. We'll announce something tomorrow.
Don Jr. and some of your team just got back from Greenland. What's the price tag?
Well, maybe no price tag. You know, look, we're going to have to see what happens because Denmark, we need this for national security. We need Greenland very badly. You look at the Russian ships, the China ships, they're all over the place. They're, surrounding. Now, they have for a long time. That's a lane. But we need that for national security. So I don't know that Denmark has any right, title, and interest, and we're going to find that. But I can tell you, you saw the clips that were released. The people of Greenland would love to become a state of the United States of America. We were greeted with tremendous love and affection and respect. The people would like to be a part of the United States. Now, Denmark maybe doesn't like it, but then we can't be too happy with Denmark, and maybe things have to happen with respect to Denmark having to do with tariffs. Because they have to do this, I think, for the free world. We need that to protect the free world. Is very important, and getting more important every year.
When you were with all the Republican senators yesterday in Washington, which of your nominees do they think are going to have the hardest time getting confirmed?
So we had a great meeting with almost every senator, Republican senator, and I would say that first it was a love fest. This is a love fest too, I believe. I'll let you know in about an hour. But this is pretty much a love fest. I mean, the governors aren't exactly chopped liver, right? This is a group of people that have done a phenomenal job, and especially when you see what's going on in Los Angeles and all. You look at the way they've run their states, it's incredible. I talk about it all the time. The top 25 states, and I don't believe we have any in the list of crime. So every one of them is a Democrat-run state. We want to get along with the Democrats. I'm trying to be nice. We're going into a new term. It's going to be a great time for them. I'm going to call it the golden age. I believe we have a chance at the golden age of America. But I have to tell you, you look at the crime, it's all on the shoulders of Democrats and the way they run their states. And if these people ran those states, same people, same everything, but you put these people in those states, you wouldn't have crime like that at all.
We've been watching over the last couple of weeks, a lot of CEOs, including some who censored you 4 years ago, have been coming down here basically to kiss the ring. Did they change or did you change?
Well, maybe we all changed. I think they've gained a lot of respect. I think they looked at the mandate that we got. As you know, we won the popular vote, as I said. We won all 7 swing states. They said, well, if Trump would win, I had to win 3. Because I had a lot of early voting going on, and we had to win 3, and we won all 7, and we won them by a lot. We didn't win them by a little, we won them by a lot, and we won the popular vote by a lot. I think that had an effect. I also think it's like, let's get something done. You look at what happened with Facebook today and yesterday, what they announced. That was a big concession from them. I mean, they went from I call them the unlocked boxes. They call them lock boxes. I call them the unlocked boxes because they seem to be unlocked a lot of times. But you went from the unlocked boxes into a statement yesterday that's really talking about free speech. What a difference that is. And so we appreciate that. But I think they've gained a lot of respect. We've had everybody. Jeff Bezos came. Bill Gates came. Mark Zuckerberg came. Many of them came numerous times. The bankers have all come. Everybody's coming. I haven't had anybody saying anything bad about me. I'm not used to it. But a lot of it's respect. I think they respect the Republican Party. The Republican Party has become a much bigger party. It's become a party for the worker. You know, if you look at all of the union votes that I got, and when I say I, it's really all of us together because it's a whole thing. But we won the Teamsters. We did great with the auto workers. We did, you know, all heavily union and non-union states. We won by a lot. Florida is an example. We won by millions of votes, the highest vote ever gotten. And so it's been a great period of time.
A ton of world leaders have called you as well. We understand still no call with Putin.
All right, a number of topics there addressed by President-elect Donald Trump in West Palm Beach at Mar-a-Lago ahead of meeting with Republican governors, beginning with a reaction to the Supreme Court's decision not to intervene in the sentencing of his hush money case.